everyone, and welcome to MaraKnits, a podcast episode 4. I don't know if you can see in shot, but I'm currently being pestered by my spaniel, Pebbles, also known as Pebby Poos, and I'll explain why she thinks she should be here in a minute. I'd like to say a real big welcome and hello to any new viewers trying out the podcast for the first time. I'm very aware that there are a lot on YouTube and your time is very, very precious. And if you're a returning viewer, hello again, and I'm so happy to see you back again to spend some time with me. Why does she think she needs to be here? I don't know if she's in shock because she's backed off a little bit. You may hear her. That's her. This is the first episode that I'm filming in this new little crafting corner that I've been making for myself, and it's been nicknamed Poo Corner, and of course one of her nicknames is Pebby Poos, so she kind of thinks it's hers, I think. So she's been coming over and sitting on the chair and everything, and I think she likes it. She normally spends a lot of time underneath my desk, which is sort of over there in the studio, and we call that her den, and she loves that. But now that there's Poo Corner, she thinks, well, you know, I'm Pebby Poos, I should be in the corner. But I'll talk more about this later, because what I want to do first is talk about the knitting. Okay, so first up I want to talk about my one and only almost finished project for this week, and then a few works in progress. And this is my one and only almost finished project. This is the shawl out of the lovely sock weight silk blend that I was making, and it's kind of been renamed. So it has this very beautiful sounding name. It's by Heidi Alander. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Beautiful for a free pattern. And I got this finished a few days ago and I absolutely love it, but the problem is I can't pronounce its name. So it has now been renamed The Shawl with No Name. And it's not blocked yet. I've just gotten some blocking mats recently and I haven't had a chance to do it. But I'm really keen to see what it looks like, because I mean it's, you know, it's just it's just lovely now, but imagine when it's blocked and it's out there and you're going to have this lovely little edging and everything. I'll try and insert a few photos to show what I think it's going to look like. So it's an almost finished object. The knitting bit's finished. Actually, if we're going to count the knitting bit being finished as an almost finished, I've got another one to show you. Let me put this one down. I'm going to have to knit some bits for this corner. I mean, come on, you know. So I decided, I mean, this is one of my cushions that I like, which is actually normally lives on my bed, and I decided it needed a new cover. So I found some yarn in the stash and I've knit a cushion cover, but it's not sewn up yet. So the idea is, see if I can show you. It's fairly plain knit, but I've put a cable panel up one side. So the idea is there'll be a panel just up that one side with some cabling in it. And obviously it needs sewing. It's curling at the moment because it's a stockingette and that sort of stuff. And I actually had 9 skeins of this, and I'm going to use the other ones. This took just over 4, so I have quite a bit left of the 4th skein, and I'm going to knit that into a little lap blanket which can go on there as well. So this needs sewing up. It's 100% cotton. I'm not going to try and block it or anything like that. Does cotton even block? I have no idea. I know it changes a bit when you iron it, but I'm not ironing this, obviously. Okay, so what's on my needles? Well, I've got 3 works in progress to show you. And I'm going to start with this one because this is the corresponding little lap blanket to go with the cushion cover. So I've just started off, I've moved on to larger needles actually. So I really don't like it when you've got a cushion cover and you put the cushion in and you plump it up and it spreads the fabric out a little bit and you get those tiny little gaps, and just go back on thread there now. Yeah, there'll be a flop. There's the flop. What was I saying? Oh yes, so you spread the fabric a little bit and you can see the cushion through, and I really don't like that. So I knitted on 4mm needles, despite this being a 5 to 6mm recommended size, in order to get quite a dense weave on the fabric. I tell you what, that made the cabling really interesting. But you know, it was fine. So I've moved up to 6mm needles for this. So I'm just going to do moss stitch bottom, moss stitch sides, and then I'll do another panel similar with stockingette and some cables going up. That's what I had left out on my 4th skein, and I've got 5 skeins left. Here we go. It's another one that I can't pronounce. Makes me sound really dumb, doesn't it? This is not a flattering thing. No. So this is 100% cotton. I'll type the details down there. I've got 5 and a bit skeins left. I bought it planning on making some sort of garment, could never decide on what I wanted, so I've given up, and it's going to end up being stuff for Pooh Corner. So that's the first thing that's on my needles. I'm going to put that back over there. Also on my needles, this should come as absolutely no surprise to anyone. Absolutely no one should be surprised with this. It's a sock. Oh, got my tail all clumped there. So this is Zigzag yarn by King Cole, I believe, and I got it at Woolly Minded in Newcastle recently. I worked out quite soon after I started going out with his nibs that there was nothing that was going to stop me doing, oh look, yarn, and running off across the road in towns and cities and stuff like that. When I see a yarn shop, it's just going to happen, you know. Accept it, accept the crazy. And he would be trailing along behind, sort of like this, really embarrassed. And I worked out quite quickly that one way to get round that, which even now has him pointing out to me when he sees a yarn shop, is to take him into the yarn shop and show him all the lovely wool and offer to make him something, usually socks. So I did that with Woolly Minded, and he picked this yarn. Now, I wouldn't have picked this yarn, these are not my colours, but he likes it. And these socks aren't for me, they're for him. And I think that's sometimes something that, well, at least I forget. I tend to knit things for me, and sometimes the person who is receiving the knitting, or is, you know, the intended recipient, doesn't have the same tastes. And sometimes you can educate them to prefer your tastes. But in this particular case, he really liked this sock yarn, so this is what I'm knitting up into a pair of socks for his nibs. And just standard cuff down, nothing amazing there. Last up, and you may have seen something about this on the blog, it's my naughty yarn. So I don't know about you, but sometimes yarn kind of talks to me. I'm really coming across as a bit thick and a bit crazy in this episode, aren't I? Anyway, sometimes yarn talks to me, and ever since I found it a few weeks ago, this beautiful silk has been screaming at me that it wants to be a shawl. Fine, I love shawls, this is not a problem. So I thought, okay, I'll do a 120-degree shawl with it. Nice and easy, TV knitting, no problem. The shawl was not approved of by the yarn. The yarn complained, the yarn grumbled, and it whinged and it whined, so I gave up and I frocked it. And then I thought, I'll do one of the shawl with no name patterns, and I'll do a variation on it to compensate for the fact it's not in a sock weight, it's in a lace weight, and that'll be fine. That's a really nice pattern as well. it whinged, it whined, it didn't like it, it was not happy. So I thought, oh my lord. Right, okay, Ravelry to the rescue. Let's go on Ravelry and find another pattern. And I eventually found this pattern, which is called, I think, the Gothic Night Shawl. And I thought, oh, that's nice. And I spoke very nicely to the yarn, and the yarn said, yes, we'll give it a try. And that's when I discovered that the pattern's in German only. I don't speak German. Google Translate is a wonderful thing, but I don't speak German. But the pattern has a chart and a really nice clear photo, so I thought, this is okay, you know, I can work backwards, I can work this out. So I worked out the repeat and I, you know, worked it all out and everything, and I started knitting and I got to the end of the first repeat. I mean, this is a pretty pattern. I got to the end of the first repeat and I thought, this doesn't look right. So I went back to the photo and I went back to the chart and I went in between the two. I checked on Ravelry to see if there was any comments saying that there was a problem, and I thought, this just isn't right. There's something not right about this. I wouldn't claim, and I would never claim to be the world's most experienced lace knitter, but this pattern's not right. No. So I put a lifeline in and I thought, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And eventually I thought, just sit and work this out logically. So I tried to do that, gave myself a headache, went and had some painkillers, came back, had another look, and then it hit me and I felt so stupid. The pattern chart knits like this. The photo on the pattern is like this. So no wonder I was getting my knickers in a twist and couldn't work out what I was doing, because it was as if the chart was upside down. Once I worked that out, I felt a lot happier. Started knitting the second pattern repeat, which I'm about halfway through, and I'm much happier, and so far the yarn approves. So this is, I would imagine, going to be on my needles for quite some time. Well, pretty much anything in lace weight is on my needles for quite some time because I'm not that fast of a knitter. But there we go. Okay, so on to Poo Corner. I did a little vlog actually about me doing this, but this has been a nightmare. It has been an absolute nightmare. So I've been dreaming about this idea of having a little crafting corner, so a place where I can put my yarn and I can have a nice chair and some decent lights and, you know, burn some nice scented candles and sit and do my knitting on a night, or when I have the need to sit and just shut off that part of my brain that does this all the time, to allow the rest of my mind to work through a problem or something like that. And kind of like the Winnie the Pooh in his thinking spot. So I thought, okay, we'll make a little corner in the studio. And I mean, it needed doing. I mean, the whole studio needs decorating and stuff like this. But oh my word, what a nightmare. So, wallpaper. That horrid, slightly plasticky coated wallpaper that became very popular in the 1980s. That's a so-and-so to get off the walls. I thought it was me. Seriously, I thought it was me. I thought, it can't be this hard. It was this hard. Okay, I've since found out from other people that they've had exactly the same problem with exactly the same type of wallpaper. But, you know, the steamers were involved, hot water, damp cloths. I eventually resorted in the end to scrubbing it with a scourer for doing the dishes and sugar soap. Pebbles is back. Hello. Yes, so under the careful supervision of a spaniel, the wallpaper was cleared off, all the residue that was left on, because it left this horrible residue that was everywhere all over the wall, so I was cleaning that off. And then there was loads of holes because there'd been brackets and everything on the walls, so they had to be filled, and then they had to be sanded, and then the whole thing had to be washed again. And then I was procrastinating over what colour I wanted it to be, wasn't I? Yes. And eventually, you know, after about three trips to the shop, I came home with paint, and then it's taken 4 coats. You know, all this from a paint that reckons you only need 2. That hadn't met those walls. There's parts of it that are a bit wobbly, so I decided to embrace the rustic. You know, that's the way I'm looking at it. What you have to think about is my studio is kind of like a rickety old attic, which has its charms. Not when you're wanting something to be majorly flat and sleek. And something else that you may have noticed is when Pebbles is moving about, everything moves slightly. Yeah, that wasn't a hint, honey. Everything moves slightly, so the camera might be wobbling slightly, despite the fact it's on a really sturdy tripod. But anyway, we got it done, we got it painted. I moved a bookcase over. This has been painted in that sort of chalk paint, so it still needs the wax putting on, but I just wanted to fill it with my things. And I started filling it up with all my stuff. You know, the things that you want around you when you're just in a little cozy space and you're doing whatever it is that's going to chill you out. And then I got this all filled up and everything, and then I stood back and looked, and it was all photography related, which is one of my other great passions in life. And I thought, this is meant to be a crafting corner. So I had to strip a load of the photography books off to start making way for some crafting stuff and everything. But you know, it's not finished. It's not done. We've got that white bit that you can see. That's actually the power lead for the external security light, which comes down here. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to deal with that yet. If you've got any suggestions, I am open to the easiest way to deal with that. And you know, but last night was the first night that I just got to sit here and knit a little bit and let my mind close down and just ponder things and work things through slowly, because my mind most of the time goes 90 to the dozen. I have problems shutting it off sometimes. During the day I work as an artist, and I can remember I visited it was one of these artists' network meetings, and they were talking about, you know, ideas and things, and this other artist sat there on the same table as me, and she says, oh well, of course the biggest problem is always coming up with an idea. And I probably looked really rude the way I sat and looked at her, as if she was just absolutely mental, because that's the least of my problems. I felt like saying to her, here, have 50 of mine. I get ideas pouring out of me all the time. Of course, filtering them for the better ideas over the worse ideas can be an issue. But it's hard sometimes, because I need somewhere where I can stop that from happening, where I can just... Hence, Pooh Corner. But of course, Pebbles now thinks it's hers. So I only got to knit a little bit last night, because then there was a spaniel on my lap. And the spaniel wasn't going to move because it wanted a cuddle. Didn't you? Yeah. If I keep fussing her, she doesn't walk around and you don't get the tinky, 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 tinky of the feet. So yeah, Pooh Corner, it's almost sort of done. I mean, it'll keep evolving. I've got some photos that I want to put up on the wall and some things like that, which will get done. And so over the coming weeks, you'll probably see it changing a little bit, and maybe a month down the line I'll decide it's a bad idea and the furniture will all change and everything. But so far I'm really pleased with it. It's been a lot of work to get it to this point, but I think it's been worth it. Everyone needs their own little thinking spot. So the last thing that I actually want to talk about is I'm quite excited, because I found out earlier this week that I've won a giveaway on another podcast, which is the Snuggly Stars podcast. And then I got a message through from Gemma, who is the host, is that the right way to put it? Who does the Snuggly Stars podcast. and she says, oh, I love your idea of a memory tree in the garden. When I send you your giveaway prize, can I send you a Clutie to go on the tree? And I felt like saying to her, that is the world's silliest question. Of course you can. I would be so honoured to have a Clutie made for the tree by another podcaster. How wonderful is that? So I just want to do a little shout out. I haven't yet received my giveaway, but to be fair to Gemma, she only announced it like 2 days ago, so that's no surprise really. But I just kind of wanted to ask everyone, are you guys interested in the stuff that I do, sort of the more arty stuff as opposed to the straight knitting? All right, sweetie. Are you interested in hearing more about that on the podcast, on the video, or are you not really that interested and you prefer me to just stick to the straight knitting? Please let me know. I would say please let me know in the comments, except I know that there have been some issues with comments. I've had them, and I know some of the people have had them on YouTube, where you're trying to comment and you just can't. It just keeps coming up comment failed. So please let me know in the comments, and if you can't, you can also find me in some other places. So I'm on Instagram as Mara_knits, and I'm on Facebook. In fact, actually, I should have talked about this. I've started a Facebook page for the podcast, MaraKnits. So you can find me on Facebook as well, as MaraKnits. There's a Facebook page, and I'm also on Ravelry as Mara72. So you can find me on there, and you know, let me know, what do you think? Are you interested in hearing more about that side that I do, the bit where my crafting and my photography meet, so to speak? Or would you... Oh. I must be shaking now. Pebbles, stop it. She's having a scratch and everything's moving. Okay, so I think that's probably time to call it a day. Thank you very much for joining me again, and hope to see you again soon. Take care, happy knitting. Bye. I can't believe you were doing that. Everything was shit.